Hey, hey. All right. All right, folks. What's going on? We're going to stop doing it up and we're going to do it big. You know what it is. It's your boy, Sports Rap CEO, in the building. And I'm back at y'all again with another great show. Another great episode, as always. You know what it is. It's Monday. It's a little rainy. Well, not a little. It's a lot rainy outside. It's messy and nasty out there. So if you're traveling, be careful. Kids, if you're on your way home from school, if you are expecting the kids home from school, give them a little bit of time. Bear with them because it is messy and it is sloppy out there. So just be mindful of that. But nonetheless, today is Monday, and I know you've all seen my post, so y'all know what's coming up today. All right, we're gonna do what we always do. We give you some news you can use, short scores list today, and then we're gonna get into some stuff. All right. This topic I have for you today is one that we somewhat visited a while back when my partner Baldy was here. We had Raheem Thompson here. You know Raheem Thompson, Chosen League basketball connoisseur extraordinaire. And we had him here. We talked a lot about how things were changing with coaches and how people were just naming themselves coaches and all that. But we'll get into that in just a little bit. But it is Monday. All right. So news and some updates. All right. If you have not heard, Jameis Winston has signed with the Giants on a 2-year deal, apparently or reportedly for $8 million. Major League Baseball suspends Julio Urias through the All-Star break of this year for violation of the Major League Baseball's domestic violence policy, sexual assault, and child abuse policies as well. This man has last played a game in September of 2023. So it's been 2 years already. They just extended it a little further. Auburn has hired Norfolk State's coach Larry Vickers as their next women's basketball coach. And check this out, people. If you are in Philly, you want to learn some stuff. You want to learn something from one of the greats, kind of like a in your backyard master class. Tiger Woods is building a golf and education center in Philadelphia at the Cobbs Creek Golf Course. And I also, before I get into the scores, before I get into the big show, I'm going to take a minute for something. So bear with me on that right now. So, scores, some NBA scores from yesterday. The Pelicans and the Pistons. Pistons take that 136 to 130. The Cavs get by the Jazz 120 to 91. The Celtics get by the Blazers 129 to 116. The Hornets get beat by the Heat 122-105. Sixers fall to the Hawks in the ATL 132-119. The Spurs get by the Raptors 123 to 89. The Nuggets just get by the Rockets 116-111. And the Thunder barely get by the Clippers 103-101. Coach Rodriguez, haven't heard from you, haven't seen you in a while, brother. Glad to see you still around. Glad to see you are still around, my guy. Good to hear from you. Definitely glad to see that you are around. In the NHL, the Sabres and the Jets. The Sabres take that game 5-3. The Flyers get beat by the Blackhawks 7-4. The Predators fall to the Blues 4-1. The Penguins fall to the Panthers 4-3. Hurricanes beat the Ducks 5-2. The Lightning fall to the Golden Knights 4-2. And the Bruins fall to the Kings 7-2. I will give you tonight's NBA and NHL schedules at the close of tonight's episode. Coach Lowell Rich, too, also tuned in. Glad to see my guys are in the building today. So, Rob, I don't know how much you might have to add into this, and I don't know how long you're going to be able to stay with us, but I hope you can hang around for a little bit. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate the support, as always. But I am talking AAU basketball, and I wanted to just talk a little bit and dig into how it's changed. Like, y'all see when y'all post my videos and y'all know me, and I've told y'all times before how old I am in the era of basketball that I'm from, so y'all can get a guess. If y'all don't know exactly, you can kind of guess how my age bracket, right? So AAU's been around for a long time, okay? And when I remember AAU, and I'm going to delve into some of this too, it was supposedly originally created. Matter of fact, no need to wait. Let's get right into some stuff that I have. And this is some stuff that I found as I always do research. So I did some digging. And I found a couple different outlooks, couple different aspects of what people generally now think is wrong with AAU, how it has changed, what it has become, and if there is a way to fix it, if you will. So getting into it, all right, remember back when I was saying AAU traces its roots back to 1888, people. Listen, 1888, all right, when the Amateur Athletic Union was founded, right? It was originally created to promote and regulate amateur sports, providing athletes with opportunities to compete in organized competitions. Say that, read that one more time. Providing athletes with opportunities to compete in organized competitions. So for all intent purposes, some would argue that it still does that. The dialogue and a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the conversation now is what goes on in between that. So like we said, it was founded on that premise, and people will argue that that still is the premise. So if you were starting a book and you stop there where people are still counting this as a premise, right? People, like I said, some people will argue that this is still a premise. It give athletes opportunities to compete in organized competitions, right? So now you have your bookends. Now the problem, like I said, not the problem. Well, some of the problem people call it a problem, but the issues, the dialogue, the conversation, and all the banter is all of the chapters and all the pages in between those that book cover. All right, so that's what we're going to try and talk about a little bit about today. All right, the basketball aspect began to take shape in the mid 20th century. All right, it really gained its prominence in the 80s and 90s, and I can get behind that. The 80s and 90s. Anybody tuned in, we can get behind it. Y'all know where I'm at. I don't need to tell y'all. IG at SportsRapCEO. In the bio, you can get the link. If you can't get on Instagram, you can get the link. If you're still at work and you can listen to your computer or whatever, you can get the link and tune in and get me there and hear my voice. If not, this will go up this week. If not tomorrow, if not later tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday at the latest. All right. So again, moving forward, historically, the elite programs were saved for the top players. All right, the teams were more selective. It required not just a high school level, but also you needed to be invited to join these teams. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody tuned in? Correct me if I'm wrong. Where I'm going, and I like the interjection, the dialogue that I had with my people from time to time. All right. Let's see, where are we? It was highly regarded and played a crucial role in developing top-tier talent. So with that, I'm going to say that when you played in these AAU tournaments, you often played against players you haven't seen before. Some you did, some you played with, some you played against earlier, but a lot you haven't seen, especially when you make the traveling teams and all of that kind of stuff. All right. So today it is no longer a sport reserved for the elite, but has expanded into a massive business model where nearly any youth player can join, provided their family can pay the fees. So basically, what the dialogue is now, and what a lot of people are saying, and what it's coming to, and it's becoming a money grab, a cash cow, like the statement just said. Today, it is no longer a sport reserved for elite, but has expanded into the massive business model. So they're saying basically if your family, your mom, your dad, your parents, if they're still together or whatever, can afford to pay these fees that come with this now, oh, you can play on the team, you can be on the team. All right. But on the other hand, it also raises questions about the quality of competition, coaching, and the true value of the experience for many young players. So, last week I talked about basketball and hip hop. A few weeks before that, well, maybe not a few weeks, but somewhere back in the past, I talked about basketball being a sport, but also being a vehicle for other things in life, right? Again, it also raises questions about the quality of competition, coaching, and the true value of the experience for many young players. So, like I said, it used to be a time where initially you would go to these tournaments if there were tournaments, and a lot of times it wasn't a lot of big travel, all right? But you would go when you would play against teams that you had never seen before. You may even get shocked with a different style of basketball that you've never seen before, right? So again, now what they're saying is because alluded to allegedly, if you can provide, if your family can provide you to pay the fees and you can play, you'll be on this team. But what does that do for the competition level? Does it make it any more challenging? What does it do for coaching? And what does it do for, like I said, the true value of the experience? Because you might get some of those players in the way that it's turned and what it's turned into now that will be on a team because, what did we just say? Their family could pay the fees, but they're not one of the top tier players, so they don't play a lot or even at all. Me just being around the coaching aspect here in the city and some little bit of AAU back when I was doing that, I've often and remember seeing instances where I'm going to say alleged coaches, because I'm going to be nice, alleged coaches would solicit funds from parents or guardians for young people to play in said tournaments. And eventually, tournaments either would not come about or the tournaments would come and that parent or guardian is wondering why they're hearing other kids or they're seeing other kids or their kid is telling them that, yo, the team is down here in this tournament and I paid money. Why am I not there? Definitely, I have seen that instance. So we're not going to get into who was, whatever, but personally, I have been witness to that. All right. So as we delve in, and I'm not saying that the dialogue is all bad, okay? And we're not saying that the entire system is all bad. We're saying that there are some things that are going on that has changed drastically. Okay, my guy, Robert Reeves, he says the elite ball players at times don't have to play. Absolutely, I've seen that as well. Thank you, Rob. I knew you would have some stuff to say in that. But like we both said, like I said, I've seen coaches or alleged coaches solicit funds, and then that particular individual or that particular youth does not end up on the team or in the tournament at all. And then like Coach Rob Reeves says, sometimes there are elite players on that team who are just on that team and they don't have to worry about paying because they know that the alleged coaches will recoup them funds from somewhere else. So, some positive effects of AAU basketball. It definitely does provide exposure and recruitment for juniors and seniors. As we all know, if you go to an AAU tournament, and like we said, what it is turned into now, if you pay attention, if you really pay attention, there are always coaches in the building. Always. And 9 times out of 10, or 10 times out of 10, they have on school or whatever paraphernalia. But a lot of times there are scouts and things of that nature that are also in buildings, and you won't know who they are. You won't recognize them. You won't even know what they're there for. You'll just know that Scott been sitting up in the corner for like all day. People been moving around, and he's just sitting there. And every so often, he pulls out a pen and a paper and he starts writing stuff down, or he's on his phone or tablet, he's writing stuff down. So again, like with no paraphernalia or like incognito, but it happens. But anyway, that is one for juniors and seniors, all right? Because college coaches are there. They're looking for players to pull into their team. As college coaches, they have seniors too. So they have guys that will be leaving. So they will have open roster spots. They're surveying the talent to see who they can bring in to fill some of these spots that will come open when they have players nowadays, seniors or players who leave for the NBA draft. All right. Skill development and additional playing time. Now, in this article that I found, this is one of the first articles I found, it said the positive effects of AAU. I'm going to talk in another article where someone else talks and says that this may not always be legit. Skill development and additional playing time. So put that on your back burner and remember that, because it's going to come up again when I talk in another article a little bit later on when I talk about some stuff, right? So it says skill development and additional playing time. So ideally, when you look at that, when you hear that statement, again, skill development and additional playing time, sometimes it works, but that's all dependent upon the coaching. We're going to talk a little bit about coaching in another article as well, a little bit later on as well. All right, so those are the only two that in this article that they have as positives. All right, the skill development and the positive exposure. And I mean, still today, the first one, positive exposure, definitely there because, like I said, we know who's in the building the majority of the time, right? The second one is up for debate right now. It used to be that was correct, but nowadays the way things have changed, that's somewhat up for debate. All right. So, negative effects of AAU basketball. It's encroachment. They say it's encroachment on high school sports, high school spring sports. Right. So, one of the problematic effects is that AAU usually or typically interferes with school spring sports. And many high school athletes nowadays, we know, are multiple sport competitors. They play a sport in the winter and then they do something else in the, in the spring, right? When I was in school, I was required to continue some type of training, some type of activity. So when basketball season was over, I was required to play something else. I tried soccer at one point, and then I tried track. And I didn't really compete in track. I looked at it as a way for me to be in shape when basketball season started. You have a lot of other players nowadays who play football and basketball. And when football season starts, like college, high school basketball and football, when football is still going on, or let me say it this way, when basketball starts, they're typically waiting for some players to finish football before they can come play basketball. All right. And AAU basketball is a spring, summer vehicle. Either it forces athletes to choose between their high school teams and their AAU commitments, or creating another problem by overworking young athletes by attending their school sport event and an AAU event in the same evening. I've absolutely seen that happen. Been at AAU events and seen kids come running in once the game is started. Kids come running in mid first half. Kids make it at halftime. You're like, what's going on? You knew we had this game. Oh yeah, my high school game had a game today, so I went there, and so I made it here. They also say it puts a lot of pressure on athletes and parents and coaches. Like for one of the reasons, like we just said, playing in a high school game, and then you got to get from the high school game, like you got to run right to a tournament. And That's dependent on where that tournament, that AAU tournament is, and where that high school game is. If it's not real close, your kid might not make it. But you also have some parents that go all out and do whatever they can to make sure it make it. Sometimes as much as pulling that kid out of a game early so he can go play AAU game. Interesting, right? Interesting thought and fact, right? Okay. Number 2, misunderstanding of skill levels and team placement. So, like we said, and this was when I'm going to say something after I go through this that I mentioned to Raheem, and we both agreed on it, and it was something that I definitely did when I was coaching that a lot of coaches right now I feel like don't do enough of. So that's the misunderstanding again of skill levels and team placement. So in many cases, parents believe that this discrepancy reflects poorly on the high school coach. However, they often fail to recognize a key difference between high school and AAU teams: skill-appropriate placement. So, high school coach is the coach that's going to be, in my opinion, a little bit more nurturing, a little bit more teaching in the aspect of basketball, in the aspect of being a solid citizen, teaching good sportsmanship and all that kind of jazz. AAU is more inclined to play the guys that he feels are the best. And then, depending on how games are going, some of the other guys may get in and play a little bit. But most importantly, the AAU coach is more incumbent and more inclined to play the guys that he feels are the best on the team. Like Coach Rob said, the elite players. Okay? There are multiple levels of competition, right? High school teams only have high school, like there's an AAU, there's a structure, but there's multiple levels. Okay, you go by age groups and things of that nature, and then you get into high school, you go seniors, juniors, whatever. Okay, high school teams have a varsity, junior varsity. Some schools have freshmen and then or a sophomore team. All right. And the competition there is more condensed because you're all the same. And most of the time, you're majority at the same level. Okay. They say this misunderstanding can lead to tensions between parents and high school coaches. So that leads me to my point. A lot of these alleged coaches now, and I'm not talking high school coaches, I'm talking AAU coaches, all right, and maybe even some other coaches, right? In my opinion, they don't do it enough. Very, very far, not enough. They for some reason have an issue and will not tell parents the truth about their kids. Parents think their kids are the best thing in the world. You can't really tell a parent that their kid stinks. And I wanted you to get the effect, but you kind of don't want to really say it like that. Okay. So again, for me, when we talked about it way back when, I said that was like a pet peeve of mine because I feel like if you have a program and this alleged parent is putting out money and her kid or his kid or this family's kid is just not there where you want to be as far as with your expectations as far as the rest of the guys and your elite players, he's not really picking it up and blending in. Me as a coach, when I was a coach, I had no issue with saying things to the parent, but I did it in a professional way. Most of the time, I would just go to the parent and say, listen, ma'am, sir, parents, right now, so-and-so was not at the level with a lot of the other kids, but he wants to play. I have no issue. I will work with him or her to do whatever I can to bring him up. But I feel like the parent needs to know why everybody else is at this end of the court and their kid is always down here. with like 2 or 3 other kids. And they look like they just goofing off, playing around, not even included in what's going on. You have to talk to these parents. This is why they said this misunderstanding can lead to tensions between parents and high school coaches. I don't know why they said high school coaches, though. It's the AAU coaches. In my opinion, it's the AAU coaches more than the high school coaches. Because again, when I talk about it a little bit later, high school coaches, you have to have some kind of track record. Coach Rob, you are a coach at a higher level than high school, but you were a high school coach. So correct me if I'm wrong. Got to have some type of schooling, some type of, maybe not schooling, some type of background to be a high school coach. And I'm in Pennsylvania, so in the PIAA, I can't just walk into a school today and say, "Oh, I want to be the coach of this high school team." I got experience. I coached AAU and community leagues and all that. I played a little bit, and I was a referee, so I'm pretty good. I can handle it. No, doesn't work like that. You have to have some kind of backing, some kind of experience, often sometimes some type of credential, all right, to be a high school coach. When I get to it later, you'll see that a lot of times, or sometimes in these AAU teams, it's like a group of guys that just know the neighborhood and they say, "Oh," or it's a group of guys that know the neighborhood and they know so-and-so was having the tournament next week and they got some funding from wherever they get funding from. I'm not knocking where they got it from. I'm not going into that. I'm just saying this is how this thing works now. They get some funding, and they know all the kids in the neighborhood. They got this many kids. They got like 7 kids, but they got to fill out a roster, right? The tournament may say, or requirements may be a 10-man roster, yada, yada, yada. So now I got to go find 3 more kids. They may not be as good as these kids, though. He ride through and see the neighborhood and see, "Oh, we know this kid, he ain't all that good, but he always got on the nice sneaks and this stuff." So their first perception is, hey, this kid, his parents got some funding. They got some money. They can afford these fees, and we can bring him in. We going to put him on, and, we'll talk to the parents. We'll smooth them over as we need to smooth them over, yada, yada, yada. But you won't tell the parents that your kid ain't that good, but we willing to work with him. I did that all the time. I did that a lot. All right. And it was even on me when that thing happened with me, my uncle, and the other coaches that we had. I was just the player development coach, if you will, aside from the executive assistant coach or the first assistant coach. I was also the player development. So when guys were doing things, I was the one that was out there on the floor in practice with them, showing them what to do, not just standing there barking at them, like Raheem said, with the whistle in my mouth, with my shorts and my Timberland boots on, phone in my ear one end, not even paying attention, just throw the balls out. Go ahead, run up and down. Let me see where I'm going to pick to be on this team. No. We put these kids through drills. We taught them things. To the extent that, and a lot of coaches say this, but to the extent that we had some kids that we're very proud of that succeeded in college and are playing either pro or overseas basketball. And that's still pro, but making money playing basketball. But it's a skill that some of these coaches do not have. All right. The negative culture surrounding AAU basketball. And here we go. I used a big word here. The proliferation of uneducated coaches. Some are led by individuals with little to no formal basketball training. To be blunt, nearly anyone reading this could become an AAU coach tomorrow. No background, sometimes worse. And it says, moving forward with that, the lack of experience can hinder player development as athletes may not receive the proper instruction to improve their skills or avoid bad habits. Everything that I just gave you right before I read that is what they're talking about. So if you don't have this kid, let's backtrack a little bit. Like I said, you got this one kid that you picked up on the team as an extra because you had to fill out a roster. He don't play much. He come to practice. You put him down the other end, let him hang out and do what he's doing, whatever, while you focusing on the elite players or your so-called elite players, right? Now this kid gets older, and now this kid is repping this team. People get a misconception. They always say you can't judge a book by its cover, right? Absolutely true. Some people may read that book by its cover. Oh, he played for that team? Oh yeah, let's get him. We got to talk to him, see what he can do. And then you get him out there on the court, and he's like, what the? How was he? He was on that team for 2-3 years, and he's still doing this. He's still playing like this. How? Again, like the article said, little to no formal basketball training. All right, all right. You can also, some of the negatives are, it creates a sense of entitlement among athletes and parents. Like Coach Bob said, where the athletes feel like they're entitled and then they don't pay. The elite athletes don't pay. Or the parents feel like they're entitled. I paid my money, so my kid need to play. That's a big one. But that all goes back to those alleged coaches with little to no knowledge are not telling these parents that their kids are not good enough to be on that team. They know that that parent can pay, so they taking that money. All right? That's just the bottom line there. They're false entitlement. And like I said, the elite players feel like, oh, I'm the elite player on this team. I should be playing all the time. And my mom and my pop paid the money. I should be playing all the time. Again, you go back to the parents. I paid my money. I even helped drive kids to the game. My kids should be playing. Lack of game day oversight. This is somewhat a big one. I think people have gotten into, and I think people have not really talked about a lot. The lack of game day oversight says that many of them are not structured correctly. And I'm not saying all of them. I've been to say AAU tournaments that were structured correctly. I've also been to some that were not structured so good, so well, rather. And you begin to look at it and you think about it, you're like, why are we, and I say that from a coaching standpoint that I was in. I got my guy Rasul on here, like I said, Coach Robert Reeves and Lowell Rich, although they're other sports, but I know from the coaching aspect, I know you all have been in tournaments or as a coach with a team, or just going to watch other players or see other players, and at times saying to yourself, man, we ain't in this tournament, man. This here is like, look at this gym. Like, how did they get this gym? Really, this the gym we playing in, or what's going on? Ain't no refs here yet? How tournament was supposed to start at 3:00. Here it is, 3:45. We ain't even played the first game yet. What's going on? I know you guys have felt that, been in that situation. So, all right. Misunderstanding of skill levels and team placement. We definitely talked about that a little bit already. All right. The negative culture surrounding AAU basketball. And that's the biggest thing that they say. The first thing is the uneducated coaches. Again, uneducated coaches. All right. Now they're saying that there's a lack of trainers. To this, I don't believe this is completely true. Because I've been to tournaments where there were trainers, and I've been to some where there were not. Right? It happens. Again, because people are getting that money. And then again, like I said, people are buying tickets. Parents are paying money. They have concessions. People are spending money. Right? People are paying money to get into these games, like buying $50 passes for 2 days, things of that nature. Right? All right. Then it had added family stress. Of course, we had the stress of getting from weeknights. All right. Kids still have to go. We're talking about kids that are still in high school. All right. In middle school. So they got to get homework and stuff done. And then they got to get to practice. And then weekends are like bombarded with tournaments. 2-3 games a day in a 2-game tournament. And you got to go back the week and do that all over again. And God forbid you're still in school, because you might have a game or two that coming up week after you didn't play about 5 or 6 games in the tournament over the weekend with minimal rest. Right? Okay. So that was that aspect of it, right? So I got more. Don't worry. I got more. All right, I definitely have more, and I'm gonna make sure that I find the right articles for it because I need to. Yep, here we go. So the second one, it says, can the selfish structures change? Can it change? Will it change? Right? The, Sonny Vaccaro and Phil Knight were very instrumental in this stuff as well. They talked about, that article talks about the same thing, the recruiting, the aspects and all of that stuff there. So, it was built to allow children to have an opportunity to play, yada, yada, yada. We know that, right? Problem is that there's a disconnect between what AAU breeds and how college basketball is actually played. So basically what they're saying is a lot more times than not, the AAU circuit is a lot more schoolyard freelance basketball as opposed to what college coaches want as far as discipline and being able to play within a system. All right. It also, they said in this article again, it also was talked about the teamwork and the sportsmanship, where college coaches are going to look for players who will be supportive of their team, not be a stat chaser on their own, wanting to build their own stats, pad their own stats, if you will. They say this AU now the way it is, it says it fosters an environment where players are jumping from team to team without any allegiance, commitment, or loyalty. Well, in a small way, that kind of fits in with the NBA right now. Just players jump. Let me stop. I digress. But again, we see how it has changed to the aspect, to the money grab, right? Definitely see that, and I know you see it, right? So again, the steady evolution has left AAU basketball in the hands of sleazy, money-hungry businessmen that that rather than conscientious adults with kids' best interests at heart. Right. You know that. Some of these coaches give up hours of their time. And me, for one, I was working every day, and then when I could make practice, I would make practice. If not, my uncle was there. But I was there on Saturdays. And again, I did the same thing. I took time out of my day. I didn't get paid for that. I did it out of love of the game and out of me wanting to be able to teach some kids something that they wanted to learn, something that they had fun doing. All right? Picking kids up, taking kids home from practice, right? Picking kids up, taking them to games, traveling to tournaments with kids with me in my car because the parents don't have vehicles, but they got to go. Sometimes a couple parents come along, and you got to get them rides, right? So it says AAU has evolved into a competitive, money-driven industry with high-level teams charging significant fees, emphasizing individual skill development, and attracting attention from professional athletes and media. We talked about the initial purpose. I'm not going to go into that again. We got free or low-cost participation. All right, in the early years, it was free, with the focus on grassroots and all of that. It was a lot more family-oriented, if you will. All right, and then we had the rise of the travel teams. All right, they seen an emergence, high-profile coaches and players leading to increased competition and visibility. Emphasis on skill development. It's become primarily a pathway to gain exposure to college recruiters. But again, we have that disconnect, all right, where these kids are playing in these AAU tournaments and they're getting individual stats, and that's not always what college coaches are looking for, all right? Media attention and branding. Yeah, we know that. We know what that is. I've had instances where I've seen or heard at tournaments, heard AAU coaches trying to poach kids from different teams and telling them, hey, literally, this is what I've heard. You want to wear Nike or Under Armour. And these kids today are so mesmerized that they hear Nike and Under Armour. What do you think that kid's going to do? At the end of that tournament, he going to finish that tournament out. He going to call that coach when that tournament is over and say, yo, coach, listen, I'm saying, right? I'm trying to get down. I'm trying to be on that roster. Okay. What else? Conflict with high school sports. We talked about that as well. The financial incentives. These kids get bombarded with gifts. Like I just told you, I heard a coach say to a kid, Do you want to wear Nike or Under Armour? Travel in the showcase. Private coaching. This is where a disconnect is also. Player development shifted towards private coaches and individual skill training rather than focusing on team play and development within the AAU system. So now this is where the disconnect and all this other jazz and the extra finances come in, because now you have these college kids or these kids that are going to be seniors that may be, like Coach Rob said, the elite players on this particular team. Now they're starting to get looks. All right, people are starting to whisper in the parents' ear, whisper in the kids' ear, whisper in that kid's coach's ear. Right? So now you know the eyes are getting big, the eyes are getting wide. So now this parent is going to now spend more money to have individual coaching for this kid so that they can definitely proceed in that avenue or that lane in what was just presented to them. Your kid is pretty good. He could look there. He could be possibly here if, he gets a little bit better. We put the work in. So instead of that kid just getting up and working, parents want to pay money for have somebody coach this kid up and bring him up. It's a de-emphasis on teamwork. I just told y'all that. It's the emphasis on exposure. Kids want to be seen. If I don't have a good game, then I wasted my day. The coach ain't gonna see me. Scouts ain't see me. None of that. Then it was what was I here for? Well, why did I do this? Right. So we talked about a lot of things. Right. We talked about some negative aspects. We talked about some positive aspects. So you tell me, were there more positives than negatives? What do you think about how the AAU circuit has changed? Has it changed for you in a positive way? Has it changed for you in somewhat of a negative way? For me, it has changed in a way that, I feel like is no longer totally beneficial for the young people who are actually playing the games. Kind of brings me to some thoughts that I had way back when, before the NIL deals and everything came about, when I would talk about these college kids and how I felt like they should get paid. So now this AAU thing with all this money grab and these businessmen, like we said, you got athletes sponsoring teams, you got athletes' sons or kids, sons and daughters, children playing on teams, giving this team more exposure than what they might have had if that particular child was not on the team. Now they're getting more invites to other bigger tournaments. Now they're getting invites or getting sponsorships, opportunities from other big name companies. And the list just keeps growing and going and growing. And again, we still have the same stuff in the middle. Like I said, you can't have a book without anything in the middle. You still have the same stuff. With all this going on, like I just mentioned to you, you may get some kids who are actually good, who may actually end up good enough to make it to the next level. Once they start hearing that, now you got these parents spending more money. You're always going to have parents who are not being told how good their kids are, or how much their kid needs to work, or how much more their kid needs to work, arguing and fussing and feeling that because they paid money, their kid should be playing. You're going to have these uneducated coaches who have no clue as to how to game plan for a team, how to switch up a game plan in the middle of a game. Coach Rob, Rasul, Coach Lowell Rich, y'all know this. I've done it. I've been in that situation, had to do it. Talked to several people several times. When Baldy was here, Baldy's still coaching a little bit. He knows it. Sometimes it happens. You go in with a game plan, and some point in that game, depending on where it is, you may have to scrap your entire game plan and start from scratch and figure it out on the fly. It's where the coaching comes in. If you have no clue how to do that, if you're an uneducated basketball coach, you're not going to get through that well. You may get lucky and have enough kids that have enough talent that it gets you through, but at some point, you will get exposed as a coach. And again, you are doing your kids that you are coaching as an uneducated coach, in my opinion, a major major disservice. Because you put this conception in their mind that they're at a particular level when all the time they may not be at that particular level. And then when it hits them, that shock hits them, then somebody finally tells them, yo, you're not there yet. Then it's like, oh, they're broken almost. If they're almost broken, if not broken. So it's tough. But again, we ask, can it be fixed? I think it can, but I think where it has gotten to as far as with the financial incentives and the financial issues, if you will be very difficult. Because we live in a crazy society today where we all know and people are thinking, and people always say money is power. All right? And again, we have those misconceptions. Like I said, you want to wear Nike underwear. I mean, I could put in and start an AAU, go legit. Go do it the legit way. Okay, I may not have a sneaker contract. I may not have a celebrity backing me. I may not have a big time athlete backing me. But I got some guys behind me that I know are committed to coaching, to teaching. Like my guy Baldy. And those guys, they coach, they teach. Right? Where I could start something. But again, me starting out small like that, I'm going to really have to work. Because I'm going to coach my kids up. And that's not an issue for me. But I'm going to have to coach my kids up to compete. Because I'm not going to get the level of kids that some of these other coaches are going to get with their team being sponsored by Nike. Or so-and-so superstar, or so-and-so athlete. Teams are going to flock there anyway because of the name. All right? That's what people are going to flock to because of the name and what they feel like they're going to get. All right? Me, I'm more, like I said, I'm more inclined to have the kid's best interest at heart. And again, I have no problem with telling a parent that, listen, your kid is not where you think he is or she is. But again, I'm here. I'm going to do my job and coach him up. You know, it may take a little bit of time. It may take some time. But I'm here for the learn. I'm here to do it. This is what I do. I'm not going to just have you under the false perception that your kid is where you think they are, and then they're down. And then, like I said, when that kid gets smacked in the face with the reality of they're not where they thought they were, where people kind of hinted or gave them the impression that they were, then what do they do? I feel like that's where I disagree with the article when they talked about parents being in a way with the high school coach. I think the high school coach is preparing the kids for that system. The AAU coach, you can go into that frame where you know, like, all right, I'm one of the better guys on the team. I'm not worried about nothing. I know I'm going to play. There's no issue with me. I know I'm going to play. Whether I show up for practice or not, game time, I know I'm going to play. On that high school team, there's going to be condensed. There's going to be rules. There's going to be regulations, right? In high school, of course, you got to have your grades right, first of all, to play, student athlete, right? But then again, there's going to be rules for that team. And then there's going to be coaches and that head coach that's going to prepare this young individual for the next level if they want to go to that next level. All right. And that means that coach is probably going to talk to them at some point, probably talk to the parents at some point, talk to them individually and talk to the unit as a team. Because once you get to that next level, and if you get to the pro level, you can see it in some of the big time college levels. There have been moments when kids that were 4 and 5 stars going into college have been on college courts and did some things, and you can see the coach's mouth. What did I tell you to do? And he take them out of the game, and the kid's trying to explain to the coach. The coach is like, nah, go and have a seat for right now. I got a job to do. I'm coaching. Because you didn't do what I told you to do. Now have a seat. Think about it for a minute. May not talk to him until halftime, depending on what stage of the game it's in at that particular point. Or it may not happen until practice. It may not happen at all, leaving that kid to wonder what's going on. Again, how do you handle that? I've always talked to my kids about that when I coached. I told them you need to be prepared for this because you never know what might happen. And my kids were always told, if you get in that position and the coach doesn't say anything to you at all, what are you supposed to do? That means you know You gonna work your ass off. Excuse my language. That means you gonna work your ass off to make sure he noticed what you did. He don't have to tell you what you did. He told you what to do. You didn't do it, so you know. And he said to you, "You didn't do what I told you to do." So now you got to get back in them good graces. He not gonna say, "All right, kid, you made that mistake. All right, I'm gonna put you back." Whatever that. No, he gonna make you think about it a little bit. You might get back in the game, whatever, but you're gonna think about it for a little bit. I guarantee you that. Been in that situation. But it's incumbent on that athlete, and that has to be built from high school. If you get into that high level of competition at AAU, it has to be done there. So the coaching aspect has to change a little bit, in my opinion, too. Because like I said, you can't just pop up on the scene and say, "Hey, team sponsored by Nike. Yeah, I'll be the coach. Because I'm going to get some of this Nike gear, too, to go along with my kids and whatever. If I got kids that don't play, I'm going to go ahead and swindle and get some of them some little gear here and there, too." It's not what it's about. You doing them kids that you're coaching or allegedly coaching a major, major disservice. Those kids need better. Those kids deserve better. So again, for me, a lot going on with the AAU. A lot has changed. Yes, definitely. Again, the question being, can it change, or can it be saved, or can it be fixed? I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, because there's this big money aspect in it that is really, really driving that wedge, because people still believe that money is power. And I think that's one of the biggest flaws that has hurt the AAU game today. Again, along with the coaches a little bit, but again, I think the money thing is one of, if not the biggest thing, that has put the black eye, that has put the, whatever you want to call it, the dark cloud over AAU basketball today. But we will definitely continue to look into it. I brought it to you, so I'll look into it some more and see what I can find, if people have some ideas on how it can change, or how, or if it can be fixed, and I'll maybe bring that back to you again. So, with that being said, folks, I definitely appreciate the support. Coach Robert Reeves, Coach Lowell Rich, Rasul 215, and Govinda Bowler. Hope you're smoking on a nice stick, my brother. Hope you're smoking a nice cigar on this rainy day, Govinda. But thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for everybody else that tuned in. Anybody else that's listening in, you know where to find me. Instagram, TikTok, and Threads is at SportsRapCEO. All right. Make sure you check in on Heat100Radio.com. The link is in my bio on Instagram, Citrus3, so you can stream us and take us anywhere you go. If you don't want to get that much intricate, you can also just get on your phone and download the mobile app. It is available on iOS, the Apple, and for the Google Play Store on Android. All right. Make sure you check out the website, SportsRapRadio.com. Also, make sure you get over to their Patreon page, right? You know, the springtime's coming up. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. Y'all know how we do here at Heat 100 Radio. We always got stuff. But you got to be tuned in to be privy to some stuff. Make sure y'all get to that Patreon page, all right? Patreon.com/sportsrap. $4 membership, right? Get you exclusive content. Get you early exclusives on stuff that we may be giving away. Remember that. Think about that. All right. Also, get to the YouTube page, SportsRapTv. Remember, get over there, hit the thumbs up on the videos that you like. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel and then hit that bell so you will know when new content is up. Major League Baseball opening day this Thursday. Women's college basketball tonight continues. The brackets are filling out. Men's are down into the Sweet 16. I'm going to wait until I get to the Elite Eight and give you some scores. Matter of fact, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you a little bit right now. Like I said, for the men, still got some games to fill in for the women. But for the men, we are into the Sweet 16. In the East, coming up this Thursday and Friday, you got Duke and Arizona, BYU and Alabama. In the Midwest, Houston and Purdue, Kentucky and Tennessee. In the West, Texas Tech and Arkansas, Maryland and Florida. In the South, Auburn, Michigan, Ole Miss, and MSU. Right now, holding pat. All number 1 seeds are still intact in the men's. For the women, continuing their Sweet 16 tonight, teams that are already in: UCLA, Ole Miss, Kansas State, Dawn Staley and the Lady Gamecocks of South Carolina are in the Sweet 16 once again. Duke also, Notre Dame, and TCU. Again, women's games tonight on all of the CBS Sports channels. Also, NBA tonight. Lakers Magic, T-Wolves Pacers, Raptors Wizards, Mavs Nets, Sixers Pelicans, Bulls Nuggets, Celtics Kings, Bucks Suns. In the NHL, 4 games on that slate: the Blue Jackets, the Islanders, the Canucks and the Devils, the Wild and the Stars, the Red Wings, and the Hockey Club. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all always for the support on here, live, and on social media. I will definitely talk to you guys all week on social media, right back here next Monday with another great show for you. So make sure you stay tuned, because I always give you an early edge on what's coming up on Monday, usually around Thursday, Friday, and then throughout the weekend. But as always, folks, be great on purpose. A little rainy and messy outside, sloppy and nasty. Take your time getting home. Be careful. It's your boy, Sports Rap CEO. Enjoy some more music right here on Heat 100 Radio, and I will talk to y'all soon. Peace.